Guys, Chelsea might be well and truly back. They're playing some beautiful football and are getting results while it's barely 4 months into a new project. Some people have tried to reduce it to just big spending, but Chelsea had already spent a lot last season, but were nothing close to what we're seeing right now. They played drab football, hardly competed, and finished outside the top 4. But a man came from the second division and turned the life of this club around. This is the story of how Enzo Maresca revolutionized Chelsea. But wait a minute, who is this guy? Before Chelsea appointed him, many people didn't even know who he was. So let us do a quick background on him. Like almost every coach in the game right now, Maresca played professional football. Having been born in Italy, he started in AC Milan's academy before moving to Cagliari at the age of 14. Everyone thought he would go on to make a name for himself in the Serie A, as most Italians do. But at 18, with no understanding of the English language, he headed to the Premier League to join West Brom, where he made his debut as a professional footballer. He played in midfield and established himself as a top player, but after just 2 years there, he returned to Italy to join Juventus. The old lady paid £4.3 million for him, which made him West Brom's record sale at the time. He would return to England eventually, but at a much later date. Maresca would go on to play for other top clubs across Europe, including Fiorentina, Sevilla, Olympiacos and Sampdoria, before then hanging up his boots at Hellas Verona on his 37th birthday in 2017. As a player, he won multiple trophies, including the Scudetto, Copa del Rey, UEFA Cup, UEFA Super Cup, and a couple more domestic trophies. So he just knows how to win. After retirement, he went straight into coaching. He was appointed assistant coach for Accoli in the Serie B just months after he said goodbye to being a professional footballer. Fast forward to 2020, and he was back in England. This time, the boy had become a man. Manchester City hired him to manage the under-23 team in August 2020. In just 1 year, he won the Premier League 2 with the City youth team, and that was such a boost for his credentials. So shortly after that, he secured his first job as a head coach. In 2021, he was hired by Parma, who were playing in Serie B at the time, and the aim was for him to lead them back to the Serie A. It's interesting to note that during this time, Maresca managed the great Gianluigi Buffon at Parma. Anyway, his first shot at being a head coach failed horribly. He was unable to lead Parma to promotion and was sacked in November 2021. Recognizing that he still had a lot to learn about coaching, Maresca decided to go and learn directly from one of the brightest minds in the sport, Pep Guardiola. He returned to Manchester City in 2022, this time taking up a role as one of Guardiola's assistant coaches, which meant he got to learn from and work directly with the boss himself. After 1 year of learning from the best, he was ready to branch out on his own. So he took the Leicester City job. They'd just suffered relegation to the Championship, and the sole aim of the club was to return to the top flight. So it was a bit of a challenge, but Maresca was up to it. He hit the ground running at Leicester, winning his first 4 games in the Championship and winning the EFL Championship Manager of the Month award in his first month there, which set the tone for his time there. He would go on to win a total of 4 Manager of the Month awards on his way to winning the Championship, with 97 points, and guaranteeing a place back in the Premier League for Leicester City. But it wasn't just that he was winning games, it was also about how he was winning them. Maresca had a distinct style that always stood out, and that was what made him attractive to many top clubs after just 1 year with the Foxes. He was a brave coach who liked his team playing free-flowing attacking football, pressing from the front, and progressing the ball as quickly as possible. It has also become his signature to invert one of his fullbacks, which you could say reflects the Pep Guardiola influence in his tactics. So yes, this was a modern coach with brilliant ideas and entertaining football, which has been proven to yield results. But a top club hiring him was still a risk. He was unproven at the top level, so it was one hell of a risk. But Chelsea, who just parted ways with an underwhelming Pochettino in the summer, decided to take that risk, and boy has it been paying off massively. But not at the beginning though. He officially joined Chelsea on the 1st of July, and he immediately started to do business. He bought Neto, Dewsbury Hall, Jurgensen, Renato Vega, Mark Gui, and even though he didn't exactly want him, Joao Felix fell on his lap. He also got Tosin for free and Sancho on loan, so you can say he was given the right backing from the get-go. But then, he also came in and immediately iced out some players in the squad. He told guys like Sterling and Chilwell that he had no plans for them, and asked them to find a new club immediately. Chilwell was the vice-captain, and Sterling was one of Chelsea's top scorers and highest earners at the time, so it was a huge deal. He also sold Gallagher, Maddison, and a couple of other players. Many people started to say that he had a huge ego, and it was going to put him in trouble. And it seemed like they were proven right in his first game as Chelsea boss. He was up against his former club Manchester City, running out 2-0 losers. Yes, it was easy to explain it away as City being City, but considering that Chelsea did not lose to City in the Premier League in the previous season under Poch, it started to look like there was no excuse. A bad and conservative Chelsea last season didn't lose, but a good and attacking Chelsea lost the very first game of the season at home without even scoring a goal. That was not the start Maresca wanted at all. So, how did he respond? We'll tell you in a bit, but first, if you're enjoying this video so far, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps us out and is greatly appreciated. Back to Chelsea. Maresca responded by sticking to his guns. He made just a couple of changes to his starting lineup in the next Premier League game, but maintained the same tactics. And guess what? He ended up demolishing Wolves 6-2. It felt like they were alive from that point on. But the fairy tale came to a very abrupt halt. Chelsea welcomed Crystal Palace to Stamford Bridge for the next league game, and that one ended in a disappointing 1-1 draw. They would then go on to beat Bournemouth, but that was an unconvincing 1-0 win. At this point, questions were being asked of Maresca. He had a habit of being so straightforward and matter-of-fact with the media, and people interpreted this as arrogance. He separated the team into two, one for Premier League games and the other for Conference League games. Being the only giant in the Conference League, Chelsea have been cruising in that competition, so it's nothing of note. But their Premier League form started to pick up, and everyone started to pay attention. They beat West Ham 3-0 and Brighton 4-2, and everyone thought they'd arrived. But October arrived and the Blues began to suffer. They drew against Nottingham Forest, lost to Liverpool, and got knocked out of the EFL Cup by Newcastle. November didn't start so well either, as Chelsea drew their games against Arsenal and United. At this point, Maresca started getting termed a bully by fans, because he did well against small teams but struggled against teams his size. At this point, he'd lost to City and Liverpool and drawn against United, Arsenal and Forest, who were enjoying a good run of form at the beginning of the season. But we were only 3 months into this project, and Maresca surely could not have figured it out in such a short period, nor has he claimed to at any point. He was still chopping and changing, trying to figure out what his best 11 was, and he also suffered injury setbacks to his major players. Yes, you might say that the squad is too large to complain about injuries, but when it's your best players who are out, it becomes a problem. Reece James, Wesley Fofana, Mikhailo Mudryk, Romeo Lavia, Jadon Sancho, Malo Gusto, Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez have all been injured at one point or another this season. This is almost the entire first 11. It's hard to find your best team when there are this many players in and out of injury, but Maresca was able to get results regardless. He went on an impressive run, beating Leicester City, Aston Villa and Southampton by an aggregate scoreline of 10-5. At this point, Chelsea had already established themselves as this season's entertainers and the top-scoring team in the division. They were a high-flying, high-pressing, quick-passing, counter-attacking, possession-dominant team. It doesn't matter who you are, Maresca's Chelsea will never sit back against you. They always take the game by the scruff of the neck. But the question that was still on the lips of many fans: could they do it against a top team? For people to take them seriously, they needed to do it against a top 6 team, and an opportunity presented itself when they made the short trip to North London to face City rival Spurs. They came in wanting to impress, but they found themselves 2-0 down in the opening 11 minutes. It was already looking like a mountain to climb, but Chelsea locked in and climbed that mountain. They came back and turned the game around, eventually winning 4-3 to go second in the Premier League table, above Arsenal and Manchester City. Enzo Maresca has forced everyone to take Chelsea seriously this season, but how exactly has he done that in such a short time? Well, first, he is a tactical mastermind. As we said earlier, he's still trying to figure things out, but it's pretty clear how he wants to play. He almost always goes with a 4-3-3 formation on paper, but it usually ends up being 3-4-3 or sometimes even 3-2-5 because of his inverted fullbacks. In his short time at Chelsea, we've seen Maresca invert Cucurella, James, Gusto, and even Caicedo. Depending on the personnel, he could either invert the fullback to defensive midfield, which creates a 3-4-3 shape in attack, or he could invert the fullback to play in a 10, in which case it would be an ultra-attacking 3-2-5 shape. Obviously, this inversion is the major sign that Maresca was influenced by Guardiola, but there are also similarities in how he loves to stretch the game, maintain control, and attack relentlessly. However, Maresca is also creating his distinct style which separates him from Pep. First, Pep is not exactly a big fan of playing 2 10s, but we've seen that this is something Maresca not only doesn't mind, but also seems to love. Maresca also looks like he can coach a transitional team better than Pep. He's been helped by the plethora of resources he's had at his disposal at Chelsea, the easier schedule considering they're playing in the Conference, not the Champions League, and the little shock factor because nobody expected the Blues to be this good this quickly. By next season, we expect that they'll be playing in the Champions League, and will likely be seeing teams sitting back and employing unorthodox means just to try and stop them. How will Maresca respond to that? Well, time will tell. But right now, this man has revolutionized Chelsea, and the fans are loving it. How do you think this will end this season though? Everyone expects that they'll win the Europa Conference League. Will that happen, or will there be a shocker somewhere? Could they mount a proper Premier League title charge in the second half of the season? Could they maybe win the FA Cup as well? What do you think? Talk to us in the comments. And since we're here talking about Chelsea, you might want to know the story of how a Manchester City reject became a Chelsea superstar. Just click on this video and I'll tell you all about it.